Dragons are a new core mechanic in Set 7 Dragonlance, and knowing how to itemize them will be absolutely crucial to find success when you're playing Ranked. Even a single core item missing can be the difference between your dragons feeling completely overpowered or utterly useless. In this video, I will showcase all of my findings on the PvE server, so you will know which items you want to build on your dragons. Let's get started. Our first dragon we will take a look at is Daeja, also known as the Blue Galio. She is a ranged AP caster with a twist, because her damage comes from her auto attacks. She also has the Mirage trait, which gets randomly selected at the start of the game. And you know, in some cases, this will change the items you want to build on her. Daeja's ability is split into 3 different parts. She has a passive that causes her attacks to deal magic damage and reduce the magic resistance of her target by a flat amount. When she's full mana, she will cast a large wave, dealing a fairly low amount of damage. The important part of her ability comes after casting the wave, because for a short period, her auto attacks will effectively triple. This is where her main damage comes from. With high attack speed, it is possible to lower her target's magic resistance even below 0, making her an incredibly effective tank buster. Since her entire damage comes from her attacks, her itemization is very straightforward. You want Ginzo's Rageblade. She will stack it very fast and it will heavily increase her damage output. To ensure that she can ramp up without interruptions, you also want to give her a Quicksilver. Set 7 does have a lot of CC and is absolutely crucial that she does not get interrupted by champions like Thresh or Sona or Bard. Her third item is a bit more flexible, so here are some of my recommendations. You can give her a static Shiv, because she likes attack speed, and having percentage magic reduction is pretty useful because it does synergize with the passive and the Rageblade. It is also never a wrong idea to give her some sustain by building Bloodthirster, Gunblade or Hand of Justice. In some fights, this will allow Daeja to clean up without you having to worry about her HP bar. If you're only looking to add power, then you should also consider Rabadon, Jeweled Gauntlet, Giant Slayer or Rapid Fire Cannon. All of these will work fine and give her an extra punch. Now, the largest amount of power you can currently get is from the Whisper or Revel emblem. Daeja is the best unit in the game right now at utilizing both of them. She will stack Whisper incredibly fast and proc the Revel rockets with every single attack. And honestly, this is so broken, I think it's pretty likely that this interaction will get nerfed in the near future. We should also briefly touch on what can change for her itemization due to her Mirage trait. With the Duelist Mirage, while not always recommended, it is definitely possible to skip Ginzo's Rageblade, because her trait will give her more than enough attack speed if you're running a lot of Mirage units. With Dawnbringer, I feel it's less important to go for sustain items. She usually doesn't need that much healing anyways, and you might be better off with an extra damage item to help you win your fights. As for Executioner, you should know that this will cause her magic damage to critically strike, but it won't give you critical strike chance. Therefore, I believe that items like Jeweled Gauntlet or Affinity Edge in this case aren't as effective. For the dragon number 2, we have Idas, also known as Midas, the Golden Dragon. She is a full tank with absolutely no damage in her entire kit. She has the Shimmer Scale and Guardian trait and is usually preferred as a solo frontliner or paired together with something like Thresh. When Idas casts her ability, she will take reduced damage for 2 seconds and heal herself up for a flat amount afterwards. Allies that are nearby will also receive a small shield for about 5 seconds, which will grant attack speed while the shield is up. Truthfully, I don't think there's a real core item for Idas, since she only wants tank items. Your decision is usually based on what you were able to find and what your opponents are playing. Overall though, I would recommend aiming for items like Stone Plate, Dragon's Claw, Bramble Vest, Vamox, Titan's Resolve, Redemption or even Sunfire. She also makes pretty good use of Ornn items like Anima Visage or Eternal Winter, and she definitely loves the Shimmer Scale item Mogul's Mail. Please keep in mind that in Set 7 the item Dragon's Claw did get reworked and it also has an increased effect for dragons. So personally, I like to run something like a Vamox, a Dragon's Claw and a Stone Plate, which gives her a healthy mix of defensive stats. For dragon number 3 we have Shi Oh Yu. I don't know how to pronounce this. It is the green dragon, and Honestly, she goes by a bit of an unfortunate nickname. She acts as an AD melee bruiser and has Jade together with Mystics as her traits. Her ability gives her damage reduction, CC immunity, and it enhances her next 3 attacks with different effects. First, she will deal physical damage and knock up her target. Then, she will deal true damage, and at the end, she will repeat the first effect in a line in front of her target. Items for Shi Oh Yu have a large influence, so it's crucial to not mess up her core item build. She definitely needs a sustain item, and Bloodthirster is by far your best choice here. The shield not only works great with her high HP pool, but it also works great with the damage reduction, making it extremely effective compared to something like Gunblade or Hand of Justice. I would also recommend that you build at least one defensive item. Both Titan's Resolve and Vamox work really well here, since you are likely playing Jade and you're definitely looking for a slow fight. With your third item, you can be a bit more flexible. You can run Titans together with Vamox, you can aim for a second Titans, or you just add a Dragon's Claw, depending on your game. It's also possible to add a damage item, like Infinity Edge if you're looking to increase your damage output, or you just go with a Ginzo if you want to focus more on the crowd control effect. Normally, a melee bruiser would require a Quicksilver to function properly, but because she's immune to crowd control effects until she finishes her third attack, in this specific case, we can skip it. Our fourth dragon is called Syfen. He's also known as the Purple Dragon. His ability will cause him to charge to an enemy within 2 hexes, dealing physical damage and knocking up all the enemies he passes through. After charging, he will bite an enemy, dealing a very large amount of physical damage, and also pretty much ignoring the entirety of that target's armor. He has 2 different item builds, one with him as a tank and providing support to something like an Elise, and the way more popular one with him acting as the main carry. His tank items are honestly quite similar to Ida's, and it's put together from whatever scraps you've left over, so let's just focus on his carry build instead. He has 2 items he absolutely requires to work properly. The first one is Quicksilver, the second one is a sustain item, preferably Bloodthirster. As a melee bruiser in the frontline, there are way too many crowd control effects that can completely shut him down. His ability doesn't really work that well with Rapid Fire Cannon, and you definitely want to avoid Edge of Night at the moment, since it will bug out and interrupt his charge. One more reason why Bloodthirster is pretty amazing is because he is usually paired with several bruisers, which just gives him overall a very large amount of health and therefore also a large shield. But you know, honestly, I don't think Gunblade is all that bad, since his dash will deal a lot of AoE damage and his bite is such a high single target burst, it kinda reminded me of Caitlyn in set 6, and this can result in a very large heal for one of your units, and I don't really think it's that bad. Your third item, again, is more flexible. The most popular one is Titan's Resolve, since he kinda benefits from all of these stats, and Whisper fights do tend to go on for a while. If you end up not finding a Titans, you can also add a Vamox, a Dragon's Claw, an Infinity Edge, or even a Ginzo. Our dragon number 5 is Shin, an AP caster with the Tempest trait. His ability fires a barrage of lightning strikes at random enemies, which deals a considerable amount of damage and also drains mana from them in the process. In concept, I think he works very similar to Victor from set 6. He has this super impactful ability, but it just requires this insane amount of mana to cast. And it's exactly these super high mana requirements that kind of force you to focus a lot on mana generating items just to get his ability out in the first place. That's why I would recommend that you build at least one Shojin. It's a great item to generate mana, and it synergizes with the Tempest trait, which gives him attack speed after the lightning strike. After he has his first Shojin, his items do become a bit more flexible. One option would be to give him a second Shojin or a Ginzo to help generate even more mana. Another option would be to go straight for the damage items like Rabadon or Jeweled Gauntlet, and your focus is to maximize on his first ability cast. He can obviously also make use of sustain items like Bloodthirster, Gunblade, and Hand of Justice, or in some cases utility items like Quicksilver or Edge of Night, just as a safety measure. Now I should mention that he does make pretty good use of the Evoker emblem, since it does generate a considerable amount of mana throughout the entirety of the fight, so it's definitely something for you to watch out for. Dragon number 5 is our problem child Aurelion Sol, an AP caster with the Astral and Evoker trait. His ability deals damage in a small area, but with every cast the damage gets amplified and the area grows in size. He is often paired together with mages, since the Evoker trait benefits from the double cast, generating more mana. This also makes things way easier if you get your hands on a mage emblem, so he can use it himself to ramp up faster. Right now, he has a fairly low base mana pool, so together with the Invoker trait, he usually has zero issues at getting his ability out. Which is why I personally feel that mana generating items like Shojin aren't as necessary as people might believe. This might change in the future, since Aurelion has wreaked a lot of havoc on the PvE server, so depending on when you watch this video, I feel like this statement might not be accurate anymore. As for items, he currently wants at least one sustain item. He prefers the Gunblade, but he can also make use of the Bloodthirster, and in some cases, the Hand of Justice. I would also recommend at least one defensive item like Quicksilver, so he can ramp without interruption, or give him an Edge of Night to protect him from getting one-shotted by something like Syfen. For his last item, you want either the already mentioned Mage Emblem, or just go straight for the damage, Rabadon, Jeweled Gauntlet, and just make sure that his ability becomes difficult to deal with from the very start. Our final dragon is Shyvana, an AP bruiser with the Ragebang and Shapeshifter trait. She initially starts out in a human form and transforms in a first cast, taking flight and knocking up enemies in a large radius, similar to Galio in set 6. Her ability changes afterwards to a Flame Breath, which will deal a large amount of percentage health to every unit hit in a cone. Honestly, Shyvana's kit is kind of mixed. She receives attack speed and Omniwam from Ragebang. Both of her abilities deal magic damage, but she tends to jump into the enemy backline, making herself kind of vulnerable. At least from what I've seen, I feel like there's two ways to build her. The first one is the most common one, and it has a defensive focus. First up, you're looking for a sustain item. Bloodthirster makes great use of her high HP pool, especially paired with the Shapeshifter trait, but in her case, I would usually recommend Hand of Justice. She requires 30 mana for initial cast, but because she's a Ragebang, she can't receive mana from damage taken. Hand of Justice, together with the 15 rage that she will generate in her first attack, will cause Shyvana to take flight after only a single attack, and this will give you a huge advantage right from the start. Now you can pair this up with something like Morello to apply the anti-heal to pretty much the entire enemy team, or if you want to go a little bit more defensive, you can run something like a Vamox, especially if you're looking to maximize the Shapeshifter trait. As for a third item, again, you can be more flexible. Popular choices do tend to be around Titan's Resolve or Dragon's Claw, and the overall goal is just to make her this really annoying tank that flies into the enemy backline and just keeps them busy while the rest of your team is trying to clean up. The more uncommon strategy is to focus on her AP side. Both her dive and her flame breath are magic damage, so you can aim for items like Titan's Resolve or Jeweled Gauntlet or even Rabadon and look to deal a lot of damage with her initial landing and her first flame breath. Now I do feel a little bit like Riot here because I ran out of dragons, but hopefully this guide was able to give you a good idea on how to properly itemize them. And I would definitely love to hear your thoughts on which items you prefer yourself. If you like this type of content, do feel free to subscribe so you won't end up missing any meta guides in the future. I hope you learned something and see you next time.